We need to act. The American public are demanding that we act. And yet we still seem to just wander along without any resolution of these issues. I can only hope that we do act appropriately and we put a stop to this. That's what we're charged with. And I understand your frustration and your anger, and it's probably not misplaced at all.
You said House Republican leadership has indicated they would like some legislation on the
Yes.
floor. Do you have a timeline? Do you know when they would like to put this?
Forthcoming, I would say probably, hopefully by the end of the month, we should see something.
Okay.
By the end of April.
Dealing with just the GSA or?
I think government-wide, yes.
Dealing with how money is spent government-wide?
I'm sorry?
Is that what it would
yes,
do, government-wide?
Yes, yeah, agency-wide. I quite frankly even think that, of course, congressional appropriations should need to have better oversight.
All right, Connie, Democratic caller in Bowie, Maryland.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just wanted to say this has happened under Republicans and Democrats. I've worked as a contractor for the government for 37 years and seen this happen so many times. And everybody wants to always say it's the Democrats that waste and spend. Well, I found out that it wasn't, that Republicans waste and spend more than anybody. When they come in, when they get elected and come into an agency, they have to have new desks, new curtains, new carpet, and throw some out that's just been brought in.
Dennis Ross.
Ma'am, I would not take issue with you about either Republicans or Democrats being wasteful. I think they both have been. I wasn't here when the Republicans were in charge, and so I'm not here to apologize or make excuses for them. I'm just here to tell you that regardless of the party, what's been done is wrong, and it needs to be corrected.
Patrick, Independent, Jamesville, Wisconsin. Patrick, you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
I just had two quick comments. One was there was an assertion about does this need to be privatized, the GSA? And I've worked in the private sector in management for a very long time and have seen a ton of graft and corruption through the private side. So I don't think that's going to clear up. I do believe that our government needs to be held to a higher standard, though. And while it was on hold, I heard somebody accuse the president of his travels and all this stuff, and I'm a little disappointed in the representative that he didn't address that and say, look, there's no evidence of that. It's been disproven, and it just seems like we're so hyper partisan that he couldn't even just say, you know what, there's no evidence of that. Other presidents have traveled on their campaign trails, and that's just my two comments. Thank you much.
I don't think I ignored that at all. I said that I believe that under all administrations you've seen that happen. The expenses for those particular trips, by regardless of who the president may be under what administration, are open to public scrutiny, and I think that's transparency that we absolutely need.
Louisiana, Scott, Republican, Lafayette. There you go.
There you go. Listen, why are we spending so much money? Really, for years and years and years we've been spending so much money. It hasn't stopped. I agree that we need to spend money to strength, but we've been spending money too far and long. We're going to bankrupt this country. Aren't you worried about China and the dollar and the yuan? Come on.
Amen. I agree with you. Again, we've had 4 years, successive years of over $1 trillion deficits. Our spending to GDP is at 24%. The amount of revenues we bring into GDP is at 14.5%. When you're spending nearly 9% more than what you're taking in, nobody can operate a household or a business like that. You are absolutely correct. We are going bankrupt, and we have to make these spending decisions, and we need to make them soon, because we can't sustain our government on the current course we are. And it's going to be a painful process. But the American people deserve to be told the truth. The American people need to know that we are going to do what's necessary to reduce our spending so that we can become, again, that economic world power that we have always been.
Rockville, Indiana. Tim, Democratic caller.
Yeah, what I'm wondering, has anybody ever, as far as your oversight goes, checked into combining some of your federal law enforcement agencies, such as like the ATF and the DEA? You know, the guns and drugs go in hand, and I would just about imagine, because I'm retired law enforcement, they bump heads probably 95% of the time. Is there any consideration of combining the different law enforcement agencies?
Yes, there is, and there has been for quite some time. If you've followed any of the hearings we've done on the Fast and Furious with the ATF and the FBI, under the Department of Justice, they're not always cooperating. There's duplication of efforts, and the lack of communication, unfortunately, led to the death of some people. I think consolidation is important. I think the duplication of efforts, as shown by the GAO report last year, is something that we need to take to heart. We could save 20% of our expenditures just by reducing the duplication, not only in law enforcement, but other agencies in the federal government.
Amy, independent caller in Jacksonville, Florida.
Hello. I know you are just an individual representative, but I'll speak to you as representing the entire government. And I just want to say I'm just totally disgusted with the government. I don't really understand, why do government employees even need conventions and retreats, and why do they act as if they are a private company handling private funds that they have gained through their work?
Congressman Ross.
As an employee of the federal government or any government, as an elected official, as an appointed official, if you're involved in public service, you have an obligation, a fiduciary responsibility to the American taxpayer to be good stewards of those dollars. And unfortunately, that culture of being a good steward does not permeate as well as it should through all levels of government. You hit on something very, 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 very true. Why is the federal government doing that which the private sector would do? Because the private sector operates on profits and the government produces nothing but a service and should not have profits. It's a question that I think we need to answer, and it's something I think we need to address. While I believe in performance pay for exceptional work, I don't believe that the Government Services Administration or any other agency needs to be doing what they did in the Western Regional Conference event that they had in October of 2010, which is the subject of this debate. We need to put a stop to that.
This is a tweet here from one of our viewers who says, Representative Ross, why do you and your colleagues need such exorbitant budgets to run your congressional offices? Let's start there.
We have taken an 11% reduction in our budget since I was elected. We are operating on fewer employees than my predecessor. We are returning dollars back to the Speaker of the House that we did not spend. I filed a bill at the beginning of my term called zero-based budgeting, which would require other agencies to start off on a baseline of zero instead of last year's baseline and request an increase. I believe that we need to justify every expense that we make. If we're going to be the true steward of the American taxpayer dollars that we were elected to do, then we have to justify the expenditures that we make. Our budgets are not set by us, but just because we're given a budget doesn't mean we have to spend it all. And I believe that we're doing our job to do responsibly in our office to make sure those dollars are spent appropriately, in spite of the fact that we've had to reduce our budgets by 11%.
We're talking about spending at the federal level, specifically that GSA spending trip to Las Vegas. The House Oversight Committee investigated it yesterday, held a hearing up on Capitol Hill. We covered that. Go to cspan.org if you want to watch the whole thing. The hearings continue today, Wednesday, and Thursday. Today, the House Transportation Subcommittee takes up the issue momentarily here at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Go to cspan.org for more details. Bonnie's a Republican, Lincoln, Nebraska. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Okay. My question here is why we have so many departments of the government. We need to cut their salaries. Everybody that works for the government, I don't care who you are, cut it down by 5%. And 10%. You'd be surprised how many trillions of dollars you would save. This is ridiculous. This government's completely out of control. And if anybody thinks it's funny, I'm sorry for you, because this is not funny. We're losing our government. We're losing our democracy.
Mr. Ross.
Bonnie, I couldn't agree more with you. I've co-sponsored legislation that would reduce the federal workforce by 10%, just by way of attrition alone. That for every 3 federal employees that retire or resign, we would only replace with 1. We have a federal government larger than it's ever been before. 2 million employees. There are many out there, many federal employees that provide a very valuable service and work very hard and perform very well. But we have to take a look at what we're doing here. When the rest of our country